welcome back to Faith by Fire. I'm Haley.
And I'm Grace. Welcome to Faith by Fire, where we talk about the flames that tried to break us and the God who used them to build us. Today, I want to open up with something many of us know too well: bullying. When you grow up as a child of addicts, when you grow up poor, when you grow up already feeling like you're on the outside before you even step into a classroom, people notice, and sometimes they use it as fuel to tear you down. I know what it's like to be the easy target, the one who doesn't fit in, the one carrying pain no one else can see. But I also know this: God could take that same pain and turn it into compassion. My heart breaks for the kids who are walking through the same kind of childhood I did. Kids who feel unseen, unheard, or unwanted. And now, as a parent, I pray every day that my child will be a light in those dark hallways. I want them to be the kind of kid who recognizes the lonely one, the hurting one, the kid everyone else overlooks, and chooses to love anyway. Because Jesus taught us something powerful. Evil isn't overcome by more evil, it's overcome by good, by kindness, by courage, by choosing love when it's easier to turn away. So today, as we step into this episode, we're talking about the fire of childhood wounds and the faith that can rise from them, and how together we can raise a generation of kids who don't repeat the cycle, but break it with the love of Jesus.
I'm going to start with a recap before we get started today. Last week, Grace was out, so welcome back, Grace. It's good to have you back. I felt a little awkward talking
Good to
last
be
week
back.
without you. I'm glad you're here. But
Yeah, it's good to be back for sure.
recap from last week, so I covered more of more of the addiction and how our parents introduced drugs and alcohol into mainly our brother's life. Of course, we had that available to us, but we weren't as apt to do some of the or influenced to do some of the things. But we discussed that, and then I touched base on bullying a little bit, and Grace and I talked about it, and we decided we wanted to go a little bit more in depth with that subject because it affects not only affected us when we were younger, but it's still a really big issue now with I mean, I know with my children, I know that you've had some issues with your children. I know so many other people that just run into this issue, and I think it needs to be talked about more because bullying can be overwhelming, but I feel like there's steps that you can take to break it. And
Right.
I think that's what we want to do in this episode is just talk about some of those scenarios maybe that happened to us when we were younger. I think mainly our brother. I remember a few scenarios with myself, but I think it mainly happened to Josh, and I think that's what really broke him. And I just I just want to talk about how if we stand strong on our faith and teach our kids to stand strong on our faith, it'll give them resilience, and just maybe us discussing what we can do as a community to offer support to children and even adults. I feel like bullying happens more as an adult than people like to admit because people are just harsh. They're mean. They really are.
Yeah, I
So,
think that as a kid, yeah, there were times where kids weren't really nice. And by like the clothes that we would wear or how we looked that day, because, the lifestyle that we came from,
mhm.
they were mean. But I think the one who got the worst of it was Josh. And he was always on the defense, because of the things that people, they were mean to him and the things that they would say to him. And so it's like, yeah, maybe he did act like, you know, the mean kid sometimes, but I feel like he had to be
You
able
had
that's
to.
how he protected himself.
Mhm.
And, ultimately, if you really know what he came from and his story, then
It really broke him, though. You know how many times he would come home and he would go to his room and cry? So he would act like a tough guy outside, but he had
sad. It breaks my heart.
yeah, it breaks my heart thinking back about it. Yeah, let's dive I wanna dive into that a little bit more and talk about that a little bit more. I so for me, I do remember one scenario, and it was actually by a teacher. I got bullied by a teacher, and I don't think her intentions were maybe they were just because of maybe, like, the background that we came from. Because I mean, you could tell that we didn't come from great, but, like, we moved around so much when we were really little. So, like, by the time we moved to Asheville, I was in 4th grade, and we had moved, I don't know, at least between 7 to 9, 10 times. Like, I think I lost track after so many times. I would say at least 10 times that we moved. So, moving so much, you don't really hold on to a lot of, like, the knowledge, like, you're just getting pulled around, and so, like, I remembered struggling with a lot of, like, the math and the reading and stuff like that, and I remember the teacher stood me up in front of the class, or she asked me to read something, and I didn't pronounce something right, or I got stuck on a word. But I remember the word being field. I didn't say it correctly, or maybe I think I didn't know how to say it. And so she made me stand up in front of the class, and she made me spell it, and then I spelled it incorrectly, and then I remember the class laughing at me, and then just, like, I remember being so mortified, and I think to this day, that's probably why sometimes I actually have the worst anxiety standing in front of people and speaking, and it's something that, like, I've gotten better about, but I think that stems from that. And in and like I said, I don't maybe that wasn't her intention, but I feel like sometimes even adults can be cruel and not read a situation right, like,
Yeah.
and it really has, and, like, her obviously, she didn't know, like, the background that I came from or maybe why I was but, like, how about you pull the kid aside after class and be like, "Hey, notice you're struggling. Let's try and help you." Like, don't stand you in front of a classroom,
Right.
call you out in front of people, and then the whole class laughs at you, and, like, I don't know, that's something that stuck with me forever, and like I said,
Yeah.
to this day, I still struggle with a little bit, but I don't yeah, like you said, I think, kids made fun of the way we looked or dressed and stuff like that, but I think me and you, uh, built, like, a tough skin, uh,
Yeah.
and we sorta just, like, learned to block it out, but I think Josh struggled with that a little bit more, he let people get to him a little bit more.
Yeah. I think as a kid, I feel like I was a little more tougher than I am as an adult. I think
Yeah.
that I know it's, like,
Yeah.
kinda weird to say, but
No, you turned into a softie. I did too. Mellowed out as
yeah.
the years have went on.
No, if it's just because I can relate to and feel for a lot of these maybe not even just younger kids, but other people, because where we lacked so much, we didn't receive, we lacked love, and now it's like, I wanna give that to other people. I wanna learn how to
Mhm.
love people, and I wanna learn how to give them compassion, and I wanna be a light to other people, and I just feel like God really did that in me, and, everything that I used to struggle with and the walls I used to,
Do
put
you
up, I really feel like He's tearing that down in me, and it's just, like, it's crazy because, like, I love people, and I wanna help people, and I just have a heart for people, where I think maybe even 5 years ago, that wasn't even me.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I would say that for me too. I also feel like, do you feel like this? That because we started getting bullied and we started had to have to develop this, like, tough demeanor, like, I think I caught myself being mean to people unintentionally just because, like, you just always thought people were out or had an agenda or were trying, like, so you just went ahead and put up this, like, and so, like,
I
I feel bad for that looking back because there's definitely some situations that I was very rude or maybe said something, but I think it's just because, like, you start to build this, like, I don't know what's the word I'm looking
I
for,
think
like
you're always it's like you're always on the defense because
yeah,
you just automatically have to be ready to defend yourself, and
exactly,
you're used to it.
exactly.
And yeah, I do think you're right, not intentionally, but, like, it's kind of like, "Don't mess with me," you know what I mean?
Mhm,
Like, and I mean, I can remember being like that as a kid, but I also remember having, like, other friends that would be in similar situations because, you know, we attract, like we attract people that are kind of like that walk the similar walks that we do, and so their parents probably struggled with, addiction as well, and so we all ended up being in, like, this friend group, and that was kind of like we leaned on each other,
mhm,
and even when people would be mean to them, like, I was the one that would rise up for them, and I was the one to take up for them because it's like you know what they're going through, and
mhm,
they couldn't do it for themselves, and so I always, even when it wasn't my place, would probably step into something and be the one to fill the gap in a lot of areas, and
mhm,
I can look back and I could see where, my heart was at, but it wasn't right.
right, yeah, because you didn't know any better, like, you were trying to do the right thing, but, like, you didn't know any different, like, you were just trying to protect yourself and your friends.
Yeah.
But I think that's our job now as parents is to step in and give that guidance to our kids, like, my kids have came home and, been upset about something or told me about something, and luckily, I'm here to, like, guide them through that and support them and give them advice on how to handle it. We didn't have that.
Yeah. For me, I can remember a time where I had I had gotten really sick and had vertigo and I couldn't drive. And, the very thing that you say you're not gonna do, God makes you walk through it. And I had always said my kids will never ride the bus. Like, I'm not ever letting my kids get on the bus. I don't trust other people. And the very thing I said, I had to literally repent because my kids were riding the bus because I couldn't drive. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't get out of bed for more than 5 minutes. And I think I was like really sick for like 2 weeks straight. But even after finally being able to get out of bed, it takes a while to recover. And
Mhm,
so there was this fast forward, there was this little girl on the bus, and Emery came home, and, she was, like, so upset, like, this little girl was not very nice to her, didn't want her to sit beside of her, would say mean things to her, and it's, like, hard to deal with that kinda stuff because you already wanna be, like, upset because that's your kid, right? Like, you love your
yeah,
kid, and
absolutely.
you would do anything for them, you would rise for them, even we even catch ourselves rising for them even when they're not right because we love them.
Mhm,
And I had to get myself together and I had to collect myself. And I was like, Emery, like, is this little girl like, what is she like? And she would tell me. And I just really felt like God was like, tell her, tell her about like, he reminded me of like my childhood. And
mhm,
so I was like, "Well, you don't know what she's going through at home, and you always wanna be kind to other people."
mhm,
And I told her, I was like, "Maybe, like, ask her to be your friend or, like, make her a bracelet and take it to her," and she did. And so she had came home that one day, and, like, this had gone on for a couple weeks where this little girl would say mean things and do all of this, but I really just feel like maybe she wasn't, like, maybe she had a rough time at home or, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But I just told her, like, maybe she doesn't really have a lot of friends. Maybe she
mhm,
is bullied at school because they didn't go to the same school
mhm,
and they just rode the same bus. And so when she, was the one that was kind to her and took her the bracelet and offered her to come to a birthday party, like, she was nice to her, and then she began to open up, and all of these things, and it was just a lesson, like, no matter what is going on, no matter what the other people are doing or what the little girl says to you, like, kill her with kindness
Mhm.
and love her. And that I the very thing that she did, she loved her broken. She loved her even when she wasn't very nice to her. It broke something.
Mhm.
And, they were able to
Yeah. 'Cause
come
emotions
together
are
and build a relationship.
yeah, like, like, that's amazing, and that's so good of you as a parent to be able to, like, guide your kid and, like, teach her because, one, her emotions were probably all over the place, and then
Why is this little girl mean to me? I didn't do anything to her.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's hard, but even even in just that, I had to tell her, like, "Okay, I
That's, like
understand where you're coming from,
yeah,
but
exactly, and that's good, though, because, like, you're teaching her to deal with, like, challenges and work through issues with people, like, that's really good communicating skills, for her to learn now, especially as she gets older. Because a lot of times that's what it comes down to, even as adults, like, communication is key. It's easy. I mean, like
she's probably used to, like, people not being very nice to her, so when she was
exactly.
like, "I don't wanna sit by you," it was, again, a defense, right? It
Yeah.
takes you back
You
to
don't know how
the
to
def
process, like,
yes.
yeah. Yeah.
You're and so she's just probably not used to people being kind to her and stuff, and it's like it's sad to put it in that perspective, but it really is. It's kind of like a defense mechanism,
Mhm.
and, you have to love people broken,
Exactly.
and it's hard to do that when people aren't very nice to you,
It
but
is. It is. It's easy to be mean. It's hard to be nice.
yeah,
It really is.
yeah.
So, like, do you remember, like, any other scenarios, like, with you or maybe even, like, our brother in particular, like, growing up
There's so
that
many things with Josh. I
like,
always
maybe one that
remember
stuck out to you and maybe, like, you wish you would've, like, handled it different?
well, I would say there was a lot of scenarios with Josh I can remember, and I remember he was always quick to defend me in a lot of, you know, situations too. And there was this one time that this little boy said something like not very nice about me, and I wasn't there to defend myself, but Josh stepped up in my place, and took up for me and ended up getting into a fight with this kid. And I, to this day, I can look back and be like, what you did was wrong, but in the same token, it's like it takes us back to the defense mechanism. And, people said mean things to him because of the shoes he wore, the clothes
Mhm,
he wore, the way like, even the kids he hung out with. And, but the friend group that he did end up, hanging out with, they weren't, like other kids. And so I think a lot of times people would make fun of them just because, like, the baggy clothes and the baggy pants, and, it's not right, but one little thing triggered something, and he had the anger, and he had, his emotions went crazy. And so
mhm.
he just was constantly getting in fights, and he was constantly, you know, getting in trouble by the police, or, it's just I can look back and I feel
Because
terrible for him. And
makes sense, right? Because I feel like boys boys are more likely to encounter, like, more of, like, the physical bullying, like, they try to intimidate each other and, like, then the fights happen, and then I feel like girls, like, for us, it was more, like, verbal, like, social kind of bullying, you know?
yeah, like, let me, like, say some words and cut you deep. Like,
Yeah.
they're mean with words, and then boys, they're physically assaulting each other.
Yeah, exactly.
There was this one time when I was, younger, and I think I was in 2nd grade, and this I wasn't obviously very popular, I didn't have a lot of, like, friends, but we were in art class, and this little girl, like, put her hands on me, and she had slapped me. So I, moved her hand away and, like, clawed her, you know, a little bit, and I got in trouble for it.
Mhm.
And the principal wouldn't even, like, listen to me or anything. Like, I was just, like, moving her hand away from me, and, like, my, nails had obviously, like, maybe scratched her or whatever, and she had went and told on me, but the principal, I can remember she didn't even let me talk or, like, explain myself. I am the one that got in trouble for it, and I th I just think that they look down on you because of, you
Like,
know
yeah, who your
your
parents are.
home, like, where you came from, the household you come from, and
Yep,
it's so easy for people to judge a book by its cover and the lifestyle you come from, and that's literally what Josh lived. That's
it
literally
is.
obviously what me and you lived, but he got the worst of it.
You know what's funny? Like, back to the teacher scenario, I feel like bullying in schools isn't just kids. I feel like teachers bully kids too.
Yeah. I can I can definitely look back and remember some times, and this was the principal that did that to me,
Mhm.
and it's just so wild.
Yeah, like, teachers, yeah, it's more of like I said, like, I think the word I was trying to find was humiliated, like, in my story.
Yeah,
That wasn't the only time the teachers did that to me, and I think it is because when you're younger, you don't realize it, but they're adults, so they see it. They see who your parents are. They see where you come
yeah,
from. They they judge you. That's what they're doing is judging you, and they automatically start to, like, create the story or scenario or automatically assume that you're this bad person, and they don't even give you a chance, right?
yeah. Well,
That,
I
like
mean, most you're a child too, like, you're planting seeds of, like, rejection and doubt and all of these things in these little children because, like, you're not seeing them the way they should. You're not loving them the way they should be
no,
loved. You don't
exactly.
obviously, they're not getting the love they need at home. They're not getting stability and structure at home. So I'll just dive into a Bible verse real quick, and it kind of just pulls everything together that we're talking about and what, you know, goes into this. And I will lead us to Romans 12:17 through 21. Do not repay anyone with evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay," says the Lord. Do not overcome by evil. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So Romans 12:17, in that first sentence, it says, "Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone." Paul is saying, don't strike back, take revenge, or return wrongdoing with more wrongdoing. Instead, be intentional about choosing actions that are morally good and honorable. In the eyes of everyone doesn't mean people pleasing, it means behaving in a way that widely reflects integrity and goodness. Romans 12:18. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Peace is the goal, but sometimes others refuse it. Paul acknowledges that peace requires both sides. So you're responsible only for your part. Do everything you reasonably can to live peacefully without compromising righteousness. Romans 12:19. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. Paul teaches vengeance belongs to God alone because he judges perfectly. When we take revenge, we overstep our rule and often act out of anger or partial knowledge. Trust God to handle justice in his way and time. Romans 12:20. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. Don't just avoid revenge. Actively show kindness to those who hurt you. Paul quotes Proverbs 25:21 through 22 to show this has always been God's way. Showing unexpected kindness can soften a heart, expose wrongdoing, or bring conviction. Heap burning coals on his head, not in a spiteful way, but in a moral awakening way. And then it takes us down to, I'll do the last, Romans 12 through 12:21. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So this is the summary that explains that evil wins when it makes you respond with more evil. Good wins when you refuse to imitate evil and instead break the cycle with goodness. This is both moral resistance and spiritual strength. Overall, this just means reject revenge, do good even to those who hurt them, pursue peace whenever possible, trust God to handle justice, break the cycle of evil with active goodness. This is not about being passive or letting others abuse you. It's about responding in a way that reflects God's character, justice, mercy, patience, and transformative love. And again, that's Romans 12:17 through 21. I just kind of wanted to break that down for everybody because that was really good when I came across that. And it really just breaks it down for you. And it explains exactly what the verse means. And let God, let God have the revenge. Lay it at his feet and just be kind. Kill him with kindness.
Yeah,
Love those, who are not so nice to you.
exactly. Like I said, it's easy to be mean. It's harder to be nice.
Yeah.
So, well, that is all for today's episode of Faith by Fire. I hope that you guys got some encouragement from that verse that Grace read, and I hope that maybe our stories were a little bit relatable. And thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of this community. If this message spoke to you guys today, don't forget to share with a friend who might need encouragement and stay connected with us through our Faith by Fire Instagram and Facebook and more conversations to come. Until next time, remember your story matters. Your faith is powerful. You're never alone. And thanks again for listening. And we'll see you next week.
See you guys.